Hi everybody, my name's Curtis, and this is going to be a SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom any percent example run using the beginner tutorial by Shift. If you'd like to view a version of this without the audio commentary included, there's going to be a link in the description. But this is going to include post commentary on the run, just explaining some things. Excuse me. You can see that I include hand cam on this video. I do that in pretty much all my runs. I think it's just important in case people want to see like what buttons I'm pressing and when I'm doing certain tricks. So in this run, I wasn't really going for like optimal segments and optimal versions of tricks and stuff. I was also trying to use mostly strats that were gone over in the beginner tutorial. So this run wasn't really meant to be like a good run of this category with this route. It was more supposed to be like an example of like the kinds of times that you could get. Even if your movement isn't really as good, like if you haven't been playing the game for very long, obviously your movement's not going to be as good. So I intentionally didn't go for having like the best movement that I was capable of. I believe this run was a 104. And there were some pretty hefty mistakes in this run that cost like 30 seconds each or something. I took it slow intentionally on setting up the camera for that spatula grab. Just because I figure like a lot of beginners are probably going to be taking that slower. Also, you're going to be noticing on the hand cam, I try to avoid this when I'm doing this run, but when I'm doing actual attempts, I like to use claw grip a lot for certain tricks. And for like general movement sections, I like to use claw in a lot of places. But I don't know, not everybody is going to be used to that if they're just learning a competitive game for the first time. So I try to avoid using claw in this, just to kind of show like what the movement and stuff looks like if you're not clawing. But there are a couple places where I do use it on accident, but you absolutely do not have to use clawing to play this game. It's just extremely helpful for a lot of tricks. I believe Shift doesn't claw anywhere when he does runs. Maybe for like mashing, but I don't know about that. He doesn't use hand cam on all his runs. So you're seeing with the walk of shame here, I'm taking pretty tight turns around the invisible walls, at least I'm trying to, wherever I can. It's important to learn where the invisible walls are, just so you're not losing seconds. I like to call it like invisible time loss, because while you're not necessarily like missing tricks to lose time, like your movement is very important. And having good movement just is going to save a lot of time whether you realize it right away or not. I don't remember what kind of RNG I got in the tree dome. I don't think it was very good though. Yeah, that spawn there with that fodder was kind of unfortunate. I went for the hit on the duplicator with the tartar bot so I wouldn't have to walk over there, but I got spawns over there anyway, so it didn't really matter. Yeah, this RNG was pretty bad. I hope that's not too loud in the mic. I don't think it is. I'm trying to cough like away from the mic. I think this trick took me a few tries as well, just because I'm not used to doing it this way. But yeah, just kind of another way to show that like you don't necessarily need to be very good at the game to get an optimized time. Yeah, this took me a few attempts. I didn't have the right amount of speed there that I wanted. Just a tiny little subtle thing here, optimizing like the direction SpongeBob is facing after this animation ends so that you can just walk off that side. So you don't waste time turning around after the animation ends. Another thing you're going to be seeing me do a lot when I'm doing the movement in this game is jumping instead of turning before I'm going to move in a different direction. Because you'll notice that like if you're standing on the ground and you just like turn 90 degrees or more in another direction, like he doesn't go straight in that direction, he just kind of like does a little arc to go that way. But if you jump, he will go straight in whatever direction you're holding, so it's better to jump wherever you can to save frames. That was a pretty standard super bounce. I think oil skip was pretty standard too. So yeah, as you saw from the Treatum and the Hub 2 skip, like this run isn't like an ideal early game, but it's still like takeable. Like it's still like an acceptable early game. I'd imagine if you're at the skill level where you're still using this route, that's like an acceptable early game. I imagine for a lot of different skill levels, you can take runs that miss a trick and dream or miss the police station thing until a certain point. Like I wouldn't recommend resetting a whole lot in the first two splits when you're like new to the game, because it's typically better to just get experience with finishing runs. So yeah, you saw it right there, jumping before going to Squid's house, because if you just hold in that direction, SpongeBob does like a little arc to turn that way instead of just going straight that way, so saving the frames. I don't believe I do it here. I do it in like only a couple spots, just kind of like another example of like you don't really need top tier movement to get decent times. I think I missed this, yeah. I went too far forward, so I missed the taxi skip. You want to land like right in between the black and yellow squares there. This sponge glide took me a bit to set up in this run. Okay, and I missed it too. So yeah, this is still probably like an acceptable early game for like people that are using this route. In case you're wondering, this is not normally how I set up this trick, so this took me a few tries. But again, I'm trying to display these tricks pretty much how they were taught in the beginner tutorial. I don't know what that movement to the right there was. That was a little strange. Didn't really mean to do that. So yeah, I took a pretty tight turn on the way to the throw there. You can take that turn wider if you're scared of like falling off before getting to the part where you throw the tiki. And I think you can still make the cycle pretty decently if you have decent movement, but yeah, you can take that turn like a little tighter than you think you can, generally. I forgot when I was doing this run, you're supposed to activate the box and then grab the spatula to save a little bit of time. With like perfect turns, that's a little bit faster, but it doesn't really make that huge of a difference. So yeah, at this point you're also going to see like more of what I mean by like I wasn't going for a good run of this category per se, because I think I'd mess up pretty bad on hammer skip here. Because again, this is not the normal way that I do this trick, so I'm not really that used to it, but obviously if you're like new to the game, you would be practicing this method. See, I lure him too far to the left in this example, so my bash doesn't actually hit the checkpoint trigger. So yeah, you want to bring him like more to the right up that rock than I did in that first attempt. Yeah, here I do that. You don't even need to bring him very high on the rock. He just needs to be like more to the right because the checkpoint trigger is more to the right. So yeah, this jellyfish fields was not ideal. I split early there. I'm used to having sub-splits in some of these parts. You can actually take that turn down that pathway with the sock a little tighter than I did. I think I was just used to that movement from the no SBA days. So I was taking that turn a little wider for shiny objects, but that, you don't really need shiny objects from that. Good dilemma skip. Now we have Poseidon. I can't remember if I got all the manips first try, or if I messed any of them up. I'm pretty sure I got good manips here. Oh, Sandy swiped at me, but I still recovered it. I think I went too close to her before turning away, and that's why she like swiped at me. But that doesn't lose all that much time as long as you don't get hit by her. So in case you're wondering, I learned my manips for this boss fight basically just from watching Shift and copying what he does. The first phase is pretty easy to understand. The second phase here, I'm using a lot of like visual cues on the ground and stuff. Like this underwear right here is a good visual cue for where to guide RoboSandy. You want to like kite her around the underwear and get her on the right side there. Also, the point of like where I'm standing on the ground is pretty important because You want Robo Sandy to be like on the opposite side of the center circle from where the I don't know what you would call it, the thing you throw the head into. You want her to be like on the opposite side of that from where the center circle is. So if you're noticing, I'm standing like on the far side of that circle because when you knock the head off of her, it flies in the direction of the center circle. So basically I'm making the head take a direct line in the direction of like the electric box thing, whatever that's called. And that's just to save a few seconds, because if you make the head go in a different direction, you've got to walk farther towards the electric box to throw the head. You don't really want that.
I've never seen such an electrifying match.
So where I'm standing in the center here is different than the last two times that she got up. Because when I switch to SpongeBob for Phase 3, I do this manip a little differently.
Spelling! The old clothesline move.
I also point the camera down there just to like show people that are watching like where specifically I'm standing for these manips. Just to make it a little bit more clear. Like, you don't really need to mess with the camera in this boss fight all that much. I just do it for like a visual guide. You're also noticing I'm getting the slam like even before the red slam button even pops up. So what I'm doing to get the slams out is I'm doing a short hop slam by sliding my thumb across the A and B buttons. And that's just to save a little bit of time so I get the slam like as soon as the window becomes available for the slam. And that's just to save a few, I would say like half a second or so each time, as opposed to slamming like when you get flown in the air manually. Because, yeah, obviously you want to knock the head off of Sandy as fast as possible, so yeah, just getting the short hop slam in there just is a better way to save time there than letting her make you fly up and then slamming. That was a good bumper boast. I knocked the second hammer into the second G-Love, which is what you want. I think I missed this Tiki grab a few times. I don't know what was up with this when I was doing this run. I just could not grab that first Tiki. That throw was a little farther forward than I would have wanted. So here, I always throw the first Tiki more to the left there, because when you throw the second Tiki up there, you do not want to stack them, because odds are it's going to take a little bit for you to get the Tikis unstacked if you're not like next to the sign there. So for safety, I always throw one to the left and one to the right, just to make sure I never stack them. I throw that first Tiki closer just to save a little time walking back. You don't really need to do that. Also, I don't know if my mouse shows up on the screen. I think it does. Here I'm doing the new frame perfect SBA setup. I'm lining up the top of the Tiki with the 50 hole. I walked too far forward there, so that messed it up. I'm putting my foot like right in front of the brown line there to set up the first Tiki, and then the second Tiki just goes right on top there. You just go all the way up to the front, just throw it. Obviously, like if you're more used to one of the other setups, then you can just do that. I just do this setup because it's more of what I'm used to, and I would recommend learning this to a lot of people who struggle with SBA. Especially like if you tend to get like slower rates on the grinding. It can definitely be a good strat to pick up. Oh, here I actually... I forget for a second that I meant to pay this clam in this route. I was about to go for tower climb. But, yeah. Paying this clam, going just out of the radius, and then paying the clam. I think I make a mistake. I like hit my head on the ceiling there or something. So yeah, I'm gonna be like way overkill on shinies. In any percent with the Guppy Mound route, you need like 43.5 thousand shiny objects. I mean, once you're leaving SBA, that is. That should be how much you need in this category. Actually, you might need more depending on some late game stuff. I think because of the graveyard clam, you might need more. But yeah, obviously with the frame perfect generation rate, I went way over. So in this run, I actually don't go for Forbidden Skip because it only saves like, I believe it's like 8 to 12 seconds or something. I'm not exactly sure how much it saves. But you don't really need Forbidden Skip at a lot of skill levels, so I just walk around just for the sake of this run. It's not that much slower.
So that. So that. So that's quality. That's. So that. So that's. So that.
So 28 spatulas after the trades. It's the number to remember in this category if you're not used to the spatula counts. Like if you're going over on shinies every run and you don't know when to stop. At least in this route it's 28. I think in other routes it's 29. So I used to have a lot of trouble with this bowl and still miss it occasionally. You can actually bowl anywhere from like the left side of that wheel all the way to like through the center. It's really weird that it works like that, but I sometimes miss the shot from going too far to the left. So I take some safer strats here on the funnel machines. As you saw, I got the text box from Mermaid Man. You can actually skip that, but the thing is if you fall down, you're gonna have to warp back to where Squidward was. I threw that melon like farther to the left than I wanted to. You're supposed to throw it more to the right. That was kind of a mistake, but it's okay. I think I make some mistakes in these slams. You're supposed to like stay up where the button is on all of them. Yeah, that one I just entirely missed the button. But yeah, you want to like stay up on top of the button with every slam. I fell down on a couple of them, but it didn't lose all that much time. So here when I go for slide skip, I notice a lot of people don't really get the right speed. So here, and when I'm doing runs, I'm counting out loud. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I count a little bit slower than that, I'm not sure. But you basically just want to count out 5 seconds. I choose to do it like out loud, just so like I'm pacing myself correctly, I guess. But you need to wait on the slide for about 5 seconds and then jump forward, and then once you land on the side of the slide there, you want to be holding like up right / like straight right, and you should get the trick. I actually make a lot of mistakes in this security tunnel. Security tunnel in general is one of my worst segments. Yeah, see there I missed the anode there. And here I'm afraid of taking 2 hit points of damage, so I just grabbed the checkpoint to be safe. I could have went the other way and grabbed the underwear, and that would have basically been the same. So here I missed it again. There, my jump didn't come out there because I was expecting to land higher up, so I inputted the jump earlier. So that's why that happens. That was janky, but it worked. So yeah, that security tunnel was a mess. Probably lost me like a good 30 seconds or so. I missed the button too, oh my god. This murmur was not very good. So you've noticed it probably a lot in Murmulair, and you're going to notice it a lot throughout the mid-game and the late game as well. But you're seeing me bowl into like that cutscene trigger, or bowl into like loading zones and stuff. The reason for this, a lot of people don't really get the reason why we do this. But the reason is when you bowl, you have like an accelerated startup, but you also have end lag on the end of it. That's why you don't just see people bowling all over the place throughout the game. At least in the mid game, you don't really see that, because it's actually slower to just like bowl straight across when you're walking in a straight line. But bowling into these loading zones and stuff means that you get the acceleration from the startup of the bowl, but you don't get the end lag, because you're like waiting on a cutscene to start, or you're waiting on a loading screen to start or something. So we use the bowling shot to accelerate ourselves into that waiting point, and then like something else is happening at that point, so we don't need to care about the end lag. So that's why we do that. So I made the good block cycle in Shady Shoals. That's honestly not that hard to make if you know what you're doing. So here, this is another thing what I mean about like trying not to claw. I actually missed the Sandman right here because I'm not pointing the camera down to see where I'm going. So that's about a second lost or so. So here on Guppy Mound, because I'm like way over on shiny objects, I don't need to get these stacks. Normally you would get these stacks right here. But yeah, I'm like way over on shiny objects. I think they pay the clam in Graveyard in this route. So the goal is to be at 2,700 shiny objects by the end of the Graveyard. So I'd say you want to enter Guppy Mound at like 2,500 or something. Generally, there are backup strats if you're short on that. Here you would also like just slide off the edge here and hit this stack as well, if you need those shinies. There I'm holding my stick neutral into the Shush Tikis so I don't take damage. Also, this bowling on the slides is something that not many people get. It's because you get that acceleration from when you bowl. So it puts you at your maximum sliding speed like right away as soon as you get on the slide, so you don't have to wait to build up speed. There's another good example. I could just hold towards the door and turn around, but it's much faster to just jump over there after the spatula animation. That way we don't waste frames by watching SpongeBob turn all the way around. I play it safe on this Chuck. I think a good portion of people play it safe on that Chuck. Because it sucks getting hit by the Chuck and falling down and then having to reload to Guppy Mound. So I make a pretty big mistake in Krusty Krab as well. I get hit by that Chuck, and that means that the Shush Tikis don't raise up the Thunder Tiki that I activated before the cash register. And that's a big problem here, because that Sleepy Time up top is still alive. So here I'm really confused, and then I see the Sleepy Time. So here's what I do to back it up. I tiptoe into the range, I grab the underwear to be safe, and you just hit him. There. So that lost me like 20 seconds just from getting hit by that Chuck at the start.
Yikes! Looks like SpongeBob's in for a rough ride. Great Barrier Reef! That's the ticket! The robot better change tactics and fast! Look at that! The robot is Sandy going to do to get SpongeBob unfrozen?
So that phase 1 was pretty standard. This phase 2 was actually pretty bad. I think I get hit here at some point. So I show off like a couple different ways of stalling here, waiting for him to stop spinning. You can wait on this lamppost up here, but Look at this. I get hit at like the last possible second. I'm dropping like right on top of Patrick, trying to hit him as soon as he stops, and I get hit at the last possible moment. That's so dumb. There I wait like extra long, just to make sure. So a lot of new people, like people that don't really know about this game that much, wonder why we get hit on purpose there. And it's because if we don't get hit on purpose, then he's going to be vomiting around the entire arena, and it takes forever, so... Yeah. You also don't need to stand on those front boxes there to take the damage. It's just faster if you do that.
One more douse with that stuff, and SpongeBob will be back in the ring. Oh, that was a doozy.
Yeah. When you hear the good part of the music, you know that you're losing a bunch of time. That's basically what I was thinking about during this section.
And the robot is down. That's the ticket. That does it. SpongeBob.
You also want to get hit by this vomit here at the start of Phase 3. You can actually jump out into the goo and save a few seconds. More like a few frames, I guess. More like half a second or something. So a lot of people don't realize, I guess, what we're doing here with these manips. But you want to stand just barely on the side, on like the back side there. So I always like to do, I like to go to the side that Robopat is closer to do the manips. So they're like, he landed on the front, but he was like closer to the right side. So I chose to go to the back right corner. So I could have hit him there if I charged a bowl from the center platform. But I play it safe in this run and just go to the side. Say here, just barely on the back side instead of the right side. I also do that bash there. That's a trick that I saw Ford doing, and I decided to start implementing it. But if you bash, then you're constantly standing at the same position. Like, you don't really have any variance there for your positioning. You always know what it is when he starts spinning. Alright, time for cruise boosting. So yeah, this is a pretty decent demonstration just at the start of the caves, just kind of showing like cutting corners well, optimizing your movement paths. I think I missed this. Yeah, I get hit there on accident. You can keep your cruise boost with that ledge grab if you want. You can also get another one here if you want, and it saves a tiny bit of time, but I don't know. I just choose to go around in this example one. That hammer was in an awful spot there. I don't think there was really much way to avoid getting hit without like baiting him backwards or something. So I don't see a lot of people do this. You can actually warp to canyons and mesas, and you'll spawn as Patrick here, and you can just do drain the lake this way, instead of walking over to the bus stop and then switching and then walking back. This jump here is a little precise, the one onto that fountain there. But overall, I think it's about the same speed to just reload there. I actually get really bad RNG on this section here. See, yeah, he lands all the way on the left and I have to go all the way to the other side. Now he lands all the way in the back. I think I forgot what I was doing here. I think I forgot where the spatula was for a second. It's been forever since I've done Drain the Lake this way. So there, as you saw, I like waited to switch to SpongeBob there. That's because I was walking towards the wall to set up my cruise boost angle before I switched. You don't necessarily need to do that, I just find it easier because it sets you up in a pretty good spot. So you don't really have to walk as SpongeBob to get to the cruise boost. I take the text box on purpose. You can skip that text box. Do a full double jump into the right side wall jump spot to make sure that you can get up in the fewest number of wall jumps possible. Kill that guy for safety. I think, yeah, I lose my speed here. You can keep your speed after getting the sock if you're not facing towards the wall, but I don't know. It's pretty, I don't want to say inconsistent, but it takes some getting used to do that sock like that. And it only saves like a second to keep your speed. And you kind of risk falling off if you don't do it right, so. So if you notice there, the cruise bubble animation ended like right away. I guess like a lot of people aren't really taught that if you press L after a cruise bubble detonates, like you can cut off that ending animation. So like as soon as the cruise bubble explodes, you press L again, and then you can start moving SpongeBob again. Otherwise, it takes like 2 seconds for it to just let you move again. It's really dumb. So I go around to the right of that rock there because if you go around the left side, you get a text box that slows you down a little bit. Also, that text box like goes away on its own, and a lot of new people don't realize that. So a lot of new players get rid of their cruise boost there on accident because they don't know that. So I get to museum as SpongeBob here. There's actually like a bunch of ways you can do this. but I think it's worth learning for most people. I actually fall down there. I didn't space that correctly. But yeah, this is the backup. You just bash up that rock there. You want to approach these shush tikis straight on. Be holding neutral right before you bash. And during the bash as well. Warping back to Bubble Buddy here, just activate the second segment here. I'm not actually sure how much... Okay, that was dumb. I hit like the base of the button there instead of actually hitting the button. So just an easy 5 seconds lost for no reason. But yeah, I'm not actually sure how much this route loses in comparison to like the routes that you see most top players using. Alright, didn't mean to ledge grab right there, but I think this cruise boost wasn't maximum speed. I'm not actually sure if that bash is gone over in the beginner tutorial, but I'll just explain it anyway. Basically, that bash gives you like just a tiny bit extra distance there. So it just makes that jump a tiny bit easier, in my opinion. You can do that jump without bashing first. You can just space a double jump spin slam, but yeah. Generally, more people find those kinds of tight jumps easier. So there I actually do claw a little bit. I point the camera at the ground so I know exactly where the spawn point is. You don't necessarily need to do that if you learn how to do the trick just without pointing the camera down. But I find it a lot easier so you don't just like jump to the side of the trigger. I think I missed BRC a few times here. But yeah, each miss of BRC doesn't really lose that much time, so yeah, as long as you're not losing like multiple minutes to this, it's not that big of a deal. TBH. Forget where I'm warping there for a second. So I bowl into that text box because there's actually 2 text boxes there. Generally, you don't want to bowl into text boxes that are only 1 text box. There, I took a bunch of extra time to set up that jump just to make sure I got it. But yeah, like, I bowl into that text box because you actually, on average, don't see the end lag of the bowl there because the second text box is going over it. So yeah, that's the reason why I do it, like, there and nowhere else in the run, basically. Killing this jellyfish isn't really necessary, I just do it for safety. Because if you're missing cruise boost there, that jellyfish can actually hit you. There's actually like a bunch of ways you can approach the spatula. You can go like straight to the statue during the cutscene, or you can go to the left pillar, and I'm not entirely sure which is faster. I'm just more used to going to the left pillar, so I just choose to do it that way. If you want, you can get rid of your cruise boost on hitting that 4th button. I just choose not to, because most beginners just get rid of their cruise boost here to get the spatula anyway. But yeah, if you're keeping your cruise boost for this section, then yeah, you would obviously hit that 4th button with the cruise boost still. So there, when I get that sync RNG was nuts. That sync almost hit me on the building. But yeah, when I'm jumping up to the copper platform that has the sock on it, I'm spamming A right before I ledge grab, just in case, like, because sometimes SpongeBob will like land on the side of the platform instead of ledge grabbing, and you can get your jumps back that way. But like if you're not prepared for that, then you can just fall down. So you want to spam jump there as you're ledge grabbing, so you don't have a chance of falling down in the case that happens. So here I actually mess up the route. You're supposed to get the spatula on top of the chum bucket here with a cruise boost. I end up doing it before graveyard. But yeah, that was bad on my part for not remembering the route. I actually get the harder taxi skip there without cruise boosting. I never get that in like actual PB attempts, but I got it in this run, of course. So there, it doesn't really matter how fast you mash through that text box. Like, you don't really need like frame perfect mashing to do that, because you have to wait a certain amount of time after getting up there anyway. I just mashed as fast as I can just to make sure I'm not like losing time from slow mashing. Excuse me. So yeah, Kelp Forest as a whole was pretty standard. So here I noticed the mistake in the routing and scroll up to Bikini Bottom to get the spatula. You're supposed to scroll down to Crabs there to go to Graveyard. But yeah, obviously I kind of messed up the ordering. I also kind of mess up this a bit, but I don't fall down, so it's fine. So here I skip the split because I messed up the route, so I just press the hotkey on my keyboard to skip the split. I'm not actually sure if you can avoid this cutscene. I imagine you can, but it's kind of bad that I got it, because the oil guy is just going to start shooting at me. Play it safe on the chuck there. here I made a pretty big mistake. Got hit by the goo and lost my cruise boost, but you can cruise boost on that box. That's the backup strat. So that didn't end up losing me all that much time. It was just kind of stupid that it happened. The segment here is pretty rough in this run. I think I end up messing up the wall jumps a bunch. Just because I'm not used to it at all. So here I wait for the chuck and then jump across here. Save a little bit of time. Yeah, I don't know why this happens. He just goes off to the side of the wall jumping area. I have no idea why that happens. Yeah, it's like he just goes off to the side even though I'm not holding a direction. And I don't know why it's happening, but hopefully this doesn't happen to you. So I wait a little bit too long. I get hit here, almost fall off. That was pretty scary.
Ahoy!
So slamming that button is actually faster, but in this run I did the easier strat and just did a spin to hit the button. The slam is faster because you can turn around during the slam. Like, the spin locks your facing direction until the spin ends. But with the slam, you can actually, like, turn closer to, like, the next place you're going. But, like, it's not that huge of a deal. It's, like, half a second at max or something. I think this cruise boost that I got in this segment is pretty slow, actually. I lost a bunch of time in this segment. So Squid's Dream is probably like my worst segment in this run. I made some pretty big mistakes here. This first attempt, yeah, I miss a bunch of cruise boosts and then I die like halfway through the level, so yeah, not great. So here I don't think I'm gonna make the tambourine cycle, so I have to stall on this thing. And then I end up jumping out there too early and not making it, so that was a wonderful segment for me. Cool way to lose like 40 seconds. But we end up getting it done, so it's fine. So if you were paying attention on the crab's text boxes, I was mashing R and then mashing A. But on Patrick, you want to mash R and then mash B. I don't know why it's different, but that's just how it is. You can mash A on Patrick as well, I guess, but it's gonna lose a bunch of time sitting through text boxes.
And here we are, folks, the main event. A gauntlet of ever-increasing ferocity. And the robot is down. The robot better change tactics and fast. Will SpongeBob be able to neutralize the giant robot's brain? Oh, I can't watch. Okay, maybe just a little.
So yeah, I think this run overall is a fine display of the kinds of times you can get with the beginner route. I would say, like, as some of the greatest runners of the greatest games once said, strats save seconds and movement saves minutes. As long as you can get your movement good and just play consistently, like, you can get some pretty decent times even with some mistakes in the run. So yeah, this was my any percent example run with the beginner route. So I hope you guys enjoy. Once again, there will be a version in the description without commentary if you're more interested in that. If you have any questions on speedrunning tricks or want to be involved in the community, join the Discord. And that's it from me.
What'd he do? What? Oh, yeah. All my plans ruined. That does it. I'm becoming a lawyer. You haven't defeated me yet. I still have lots of robots all over Bikini Bottom. I'll summon them all, and then we'll see. Uh-oh. I'll destroy you. You'll destroy me. I'll destroy you. I'll destroy you twice as hard. Oh yeah? I'll destroy you plus one. Well, I'll destroy you plus infinity. Shut up, you stupid robot. Who are you right, Puppy Grinder? Oh, yeah? I'll show you! Come here and fight like a monosaur.
Well, Plankton, I hope you learned your lesson.
Oh, I certainly did. Next time I'll get it right.
Ouch! We won! Who wants to get ice cream?
I do!
Need I remind you all that there are still robots out there making a mess of Bikini Bottom?
Sandy is right.
Well, I thought she was a squirrel.
I'm being punished. I don't know for what, but I'm being punished.
There's still work to be done out there. Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy wouldn't stop, and neither will I. We can't rest until Bikini Bottom is safe